Hey, what's up? My name is Dana Zorns, and welcome to this video. We're going to break down the pentathlon. Uh, the pentathlon was created by the great Valery Fedorenko, the youngest slash first kettlebell sport world champion, and originally designed for GPP, or general physical preparedness. Uh, When Valery created it, he also created the quotient, or the point multiplier, which is 1 point per 8 kilogram. So for instance, 8 kilogram equals 1 point, 16 equals 2, so on and so forth. And you also break down so 8, 10, 12, 14, 16s, 10s, 12s, they're all 0.25s, 0.5, so forth and so on. Later on, it was developed and taken on by the IKMF. The IKMF got permission from Valery to regulate it and turn it into competition, which is a fun event. So, what is the pentathlon? The pentathlon is 5 disciplines, 6 minutes of work for each discipline with 5 minutes of rest in between. So overall, it's a 50-minute event, and each event will have a rep cap. So, for instance, clean is 120 reps. The long cycle press is 60 reps. Jerk is 120 reps. Half snatch is 108 reps. And push press, or strict push press, is 120 reps. So there's no benefit in going, well, there's no real benefit in going above the rep cap when you're doing the scoring. All right, so it's ideal to stay within the RPMs, or the reps per minute, and try to train yourself to maximize your efficiency within that rep cap. So that breaks down to cleans are 20 reps per minute. Long cycle press, which I want to note that that's a strict press. Cleans are 20 reps per minute. Long cycle press will be 10 reps per minute. Jerk is 20 reps per minute. Half snatch is 18 reps per minute. And strict push press is 20 reps per minute. You don't gain extra points if you go over the reps. So it would be ideal to just stay within the rep cap, okay? So what we're going to do is demonstrate the exercises and kind of break them down a little bit. We won't go into too much detail for the technical aspect of each lift, but I at least want to show them and give an overview of them. So for the clean, we want to make sure that we pause in the rack position. It's a swing between the legs. You bring it up to the rack position, and you show good fixation, which is a pause in the rack position. Okay? Fixation is going to be, whether it be in the clean or in the overhead, a slight pause. You want to see the bell come to a complete stop before the next rep is taken on. So we're going to demonstrate the clean, 5 reps each side, and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit. All right, so that's the clean. The most important aspects of that is to make sure you have arm body contact when you're swinging between the legs. Keep the bell high in between the legs when you go back for the backswing. And having a good arm body connection when you are in the rack position. Try to get that elbow down on the iliac crest. And if you have trouble with that, just keep the arm connected to the body as best as you can and try to keep the bell in the midline of your body. So next is the long cycle press. And note that this is a strict press. So no legs are involved in getting the bell overhead. Now, it doesn't mean that the lift can't be a little dynamic. Any high level lifter will tell you that a press comes from the lat. So you'll notice the bell or your arm will slightly go down before it goes up. And that's because you're engaging that lat. And to make it even better, you can kind of turn the body and really engage the lat, but you cannot bend the knees. So if there's any slight bend in the knees when you go to press, technically that rep won't count. So we're going to demonstrate 5 each side. One. All right. So you notice that I kind of turn the body and that fully gets that lat engaged, ready for the liftoff. A couple key notes is the clean is exactly the same. So when you fixate, pause in the rack position, set up for the press. When you come back down from the press, you can connect and just move right in. You don't have to pause again. So working that transition from the drop and then right back into the backswing, bring it up. But each time you bring it up into the clean, pause, show good fixation. Another key note is having the proper hand insertion. In other words, that bell is 45 degrees across the palm and you're pressing with the base of the palm. You're not gripping the bell and pressing fully tension through the forearm. You want to have the bell weight resting on the palm, on the base. That way you're pressing from here. You're much more powerful from the base than you are with the fist. Okay? Long cycle press. The next exercise is the jerk, which is probably the most difficult to learn because of the technicality of it. And what I mean is you have a bump and then you have to get under the bell with a second dip or an under squat. So efficiency keeping the arm connected to the body when you go into the first bump. So you're kind of moving forward just a little bit with the knees over toe, okay? You're not squatting to bump, you are, okay? Keeping the arm connected to the body with ideally zero movement. Now, it takes some practice, a lot of practice, to get this movement with zero movement from the arm to get the bump, okay? The next keynote is after you bump your triple extension and then you drop into the under squat. And when you land into the under squat, you want to have your arm locked out, okay? And then you stand up for fixation. So from the side, without the weight, right? Now, not diving in too deep with the technicality of coming out of this second dip, but the quicker you extend the knees, the better, okay? So, all right, coming out of the second dip is as fast as possible is crucial, okay? But you have to show a solid second dip, all right? That's one of the things that judges, if you're in competition, will look for. And that's one thing you should look for in yourself when you're training, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate 5 reps each side, and we'll kind of talk about it just a little bit more. Take note in the way that I switched. It's a speed switch, a 2-hand speed switch. You can absolutely do a hand-to-hand switch, which would look like this. But this is also allowed, which is going to save you time. The reason for that, you want to master that 2-hand speed switch because 20 reps per minute in the jerk, single bell or not, is extremely difficult to master. It's extremely difficult to learn and to implement. The jerk is really the first exercise that is really going to tax you. And it's going to tax your cardio system because of the speed. If you're training for 20 reps per minute, it's gonna get you. This is gonna be the first one that's really gonna, you're gonna be breathing, all right? That's why also we're not really going over the breath and the sequence of the breath in these exercises, but the breath is so important with these exercises. So it's essential to learn that 2-hand switch, all right? Now, the next exercise is the half snatch. And the key components of the half snatch is a swing between the legs and one fluid motion, lockout overhead, okay? After the lockout, back to the rack, and then back into the next rep. The the reps per minute are 18 reps per minute. So let me demonstrate 5 each side and we'll kind of talk about it just a little bit more. All right. This is also a pretty fast exercise. Typically in the snatch, where there's no drop back to the rack, and it's one fluid motion between the legs up and then dropping right back between the legs. 20 RPMs is like the ideal RPM. Now, with the half snatch, you have to drop it back to the rack before you cycle back into the next rep. And that's also very demanding on your cardiovascular system. Some of the key components is in the overhead. So one thing I didn't cover with the presses is when you press, I did cover pressing with the palm, but that means your wrist is kind of back a little bit, correct? Pressing up, boom. Well, when you snatch to come up, your wrist is going to stay fairly straight. And the reason is you're creating sort of like a backstop because not only, in the press, you have just upward motion, but in the snatch, you have an arc. So you have upward and backward motion. So by keeping your wrist straight, you're engaging all the proper stabilizers in the shoulder to create a backstop. So think of a baseball diamond backstop. You got to create that with your palm when it comes up, and that will aid you in stopping the bell. So analogies that I like to use for a press, you're creating like a little helicopter landing pad straight up. And then with the snatch, you are creating a baseball diamond backstop. Okay? If that helps you, I hope it does, because when I kind of started telling myself that, it helped tremendously. The final exercise is the strict push press. And it's strict in the sense, typically, I noticed when I first started learning the push press, guys would, from the rack, push and their heels would come off the ground. Well, in this exercise, the heels have to stay planted during the initial push phase, okay? And that's the key difference. Heels stay planted in the push phase. And when you drop, you can absolutely bring the heels up to absorb the weight, but during that push phase, keep the heels planted. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate 5 on each side. Again, with the jerk and the push press, you are allowed the 2-hand speed switch. So to backtrack a little bit, cleans, you have to hand-to-hand switch. Long cycle press, you have to hand-to-hand switch. Jerk, you can speed switch. Half snatch, you have to hand-to-hand switch. And push press, you're allowed to speed switch. Again, the push press is 20 reps per minute. Also very taxing on the cardiovascular, but this one it doesn't have that big bump with an under squat, so you're also now taxing the shoulder. You pretty much, you're gonna just slay the rest of the body during the push press. It's tough. So I would like to just cover the breath real quick because it is so important. During the clean, you should be getting 3 breaths or 3 exhales during 1 rep. And why do I say exhales? Because we focus on the exhales because your body's going to inhale on its own. So clean, exhale during the backswing, exhale during the acceleration pull, and exhale when the bell lands on the body. Okay, so all right. Long cycle press, a little bit different, but the clean is the same. 3 breaths, bring it up to the rack. Breathe in nice and deep as you go to propel. And then once you take that breath in and you give the push, you can breathe out on the way up, or you can hold that breath until you get to the top. It's probably more ideal to breathe in nice and deep, and as soon as you start the push, you give an exhale. Okay? Exhale on the way up, exhale in the top, and then exhale when you bring it back down to the rack. So, exhale backswing, exhale acceleration pull, exhale the landing of the rack fixation, inhale with a quick exhale as you go to push, exhale in fixation, breathe in as you drop, exhale when it lands, and then right back into the backswing. The jerk, this one's really tough. In the beginning, it would be ideal to work this breath pattern, which is exhale in the first dip into the bump, inhale as the bell's going to go up, exhale into the second dip. You're going to inhale naturally as you fixate, exhale in fixation, inhale as it drops, exhale when it lands. So, exhale, 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 exhale. All right? And once you get better at the jerk, you can kind of play around with how many exhales you're going to do. So for instance, I exhale in the dip and I breathe in through the second dip in the fixation. And the reason why I do that, because I found for me, it allows me to get out of that second dip faster. Earlier I said you want to get out of that second dip as fast as possible. For me, that allowed me to get out of the second dip a little faster. With the half snatch, Same as the clean. Exhale in the backswing. Exhale on acceleration pull. Exhale and fixation. Exhale back to rack in the same 4-cycle pattern throughout the movement. Push press, same as the jerk, except here you don't have a second dip. So it's exhale, exhale, exhale. Okay? First dip, exhale, push, exhale and fixation, exhale back to rack. Okay? This is an extremely basic overview of the pentathlon. I'm going to start putting out a lot more videos for this event because we trained for it when we went to Boston, the RazeBells team, and we absolutely fell in love with it. And I realized that when I trained under Steve Cotter in the IKFF, these are the disciplines you're going to learn. You know, besides the half snatch, Steve Cotter taught the full snatch. So this is even more approachable than that, so to speak. There are differences in the half snatch compared to the snatch because of that rack position, but the half snatch, some will find it could be a little more difficult because you have to emphasize, you don't have the momentum of, in the full snatch, you don't have the momentum of the full drop. So you have to reset in the rack, come back down, and you have to really emphasize that hip thrust acceleration pull. So there are key differences. But like I was saying, the RazeBells team loved it so much that more than half of us decided to stay with it and to keep training it. And that's what we will be doing, most of us will be doing at the All-American Kettlebell Open in October. So if you like this video and you want to see more of the pentathlon, like, subscribe, and comment, let me know, share it, tell your buddies about it. But I appreciate you guys stopping by, and hopefully you got something out of this. See you.